thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to mix up some different kinds of paints and show you how I do it. So the first one that I'm going to do is an Artist Loft. It's a ready mixed pouring paint. I haven't mixed these up before. My sister had mixed this one up and she said it is really thick, and so I'm going to try it using the same formula that I have for using Artist Loft Flow, and then we'll see if we need to make any tweaks to it. So I have a list that I have made of different kinds of paints and how I mix them up. If you're interested in that, I'm going to try to make sure I get a link put down in the bottom where you'll have a printed out copy of this. I put it in Microsoft Excel, so hopefully it will work for you to be able to read it, and it's in better order than this. So when I mix up paints, what I do first is I put the Floetrol in the bottle and then I put the paint in, because at first when I was doing this I was putting the paint in first and then I would put the Floetrol in, and then there would be paint all on the outside of the bottle that never really incorporated with the rest of it, and so I think it just seems to work better if I put the Floetrol in first. So this bottle is full of Floetrol. It was poured into a cup through a strainer so that it didn't have any boogers or any other chunks or anything in it, and then it was poured in this bottle. So it'll just be easier to measure it out of this bottle. So what I do is I take the bottle and I'll put it on my scale, and then I push the tare button, which is also the power button. So I'll do that to turn it on. Then you can switch between the unit to get it to the type of measurement you want. I am doing it in grams. I found that that works a lot better because a gram is a lot smaller than an ounce, and so you can get a lot more exacting than if you were trying to do your measurements in ounces. So I put that on there so that it doesn't weigh the part of the bottle, because like this one, the bottle itself weighs 25 grams. So I put that on there, and then according to the Artist Loft Flow, I use 80 grams of Floetrol. So I'm going to pour that in there. I really wish I could figure out why I cannot zoom in so that you could see what I'm doing a little bit better. So I actually poured this in too fast and I got 85 grams, and so I just dump a little bit of it back out into the bottle. And now it's at 80 grams. So then you take your paint and put 40 grams of paint in there. So I'll try to be a little more careful so I don't overdo this. So something that I forgot to do is I usually push the tare again so that it will clear it off. So then I know that I just, you know, when I get to 100 or when I get to 40, then I'm where I need to be. So since I already had 80 in there and I need 40, now I'm going to have to go till I get to 120. So I'll just pay attention to that. But otherwise it's easier if you clear it off before you add anything else. And I do have different measurements for different types of paint because they all react just a little bit different. Some of them are thicker than others, some are thinner. So and it really doesn't have to be exactly how I do it. This is what works for me. It may not be what works for you. You may like your paints a little thicker, a little thinner. Before I was doing it, I was just, you know, before I was measuring it like this, I was just putting some in there, basing it roughly on the lines in a cup, hoping that I was getting the measurements like I wanted.
And we've come to find out that sometimes being in different climates and whatnot can also make differences.
Yes.
So then you can just tweak them according to what works in your area.
Yeah, so as I was doing this, my scale shut off. Usually I don't have that issue, but so I have another bottle that's the same kind of bottle, so I'm gonna put it on there and turn it on. So when I take this off, okay, but now this says 27 grams, so this actually weighs 2 more grams than this one does. So now I'm gonna have to go to 122 instead of 120, so that I can make sure I have the right weight. And if you are interested in getting the kind of scale that I have, I bought it off of Walmart. I do have a link in my description that goes to it. It is an affiliate link, so if you follow that link, I will get a small bonus for referring you, but it in no way affects what you have to pay. So if you want to do that, that would be great. If not, you know, that's fine too. So once I get the Floetrol and the paint in here, then I put the lid on, and of course I want to make sure that the lid is closed. Then I shake it really good, because you want to make sure that that gets mixed really well. I just pounded it down a little bit so some of that paint will go back down, because you don't really want it going all over the place. And then I'll put that on there and then push the tear button and then add water, and I forgot to grab water, so I need to go grab some water real quick. Alright, so 20 grams of water, and I'm going to take this off of here and then put it back on, because when you have a large difference in there, it'll keep your scale from shutting off. So every once in a while, if I've been doing something and I know it's been taking me a while to do what I'm gonna do, I'll just push on the scale so that it adds some extra weight, and then it'll go back down to where it's supposed to be. Okay, so there's to 20. Then you just put the lid back on and shake it up really good. Now this is a really big bottle, and so it is about half full, so I could actually do this a double in this one from what I have the measurements on there. So I on my paper I will write down the differences that I've used in different size bottles and stuff, because it just makes it easier so I don't have to keep refiguring. But so that's how you do that one. Then you can also, this one's had white in it before. Okay, so I'm gonna do a consistency thing to make sure it's right. So this is a consistency gauge. It has circles on it, so you pour your paint into the circle so that it fills the circle up. And then once you do that, you lift up your paper 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000, 5, 1000, and it's between 5 and 6. And so that's where you want your consistency to be. And then when you do other paints, you can put those on there, and as long as they all are pretty close to the same range, then they'll be good. Now this one had white in it. I've cleaned the bottle out just because the white was kind of oldish. What was left in there, there was just a little bit in there, so I kind of rinsed it out, but you don't have to do that. And so when you put your bottle on there, you're going to push tear anyway, and so it's not going to matter if there's a little bit of paint in there. The only time that it matters is like when I do my bottle like that, because I think they are, yeah, they're the same bottles. And so if it has a little bit too much in it, then I can't use my formula that I have on here, the amounts, because it fills it up too full. But since this one doesn't have any of that, I can use it, and it is the Master's Touch. So then I find the Master's Touch Titanium White, and I put 240 grams of Floetrol in there. So you can pour fairly fast until you get about to 200, then I slow down. At least that's what I normally do so that I don't go over.
Whoops.
So right now I'm at 231. Okay, so now I'm at 240. That's the long lid. And we make sure that we mark everything so it has an FT for Floetrol, and then the bottle does too. That way if we have two bottles with the lids off at the same time for some reason, we don't get them mixed up.
And use your water, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and we do use distilled water because there's minerals and different things in your...
Okay, she uses distilled water. I don't usually. Most of the time I just get mine from the sink. So you can do whichever you would rather. But I mean, it's probably a better idea to use distilled because then you're gonna know a little better, you know, that how you're mixing it is gonna be the same regardless of where you go, because water from here is different than water from Tennessee. Okay, so that's the 240 grams of Floetrol, and so now I add 78 grams of paint. So I'm going to tear that. So I think that this probably would have been better if I had set my camera up so that you could almost do more of an over-the-shoulder look, but I didn't do it that way. I didn't think of it before. I thought I could zoom in, but I can't. So if you would rather that I do another one of these at some point and do it more of an over the shoulder, please let me know in the comments and I will try to make sure that I make that happen for you. Okay, so I'm going to do 78 grams of paint. And the paint is a lot thicker, and so it's going to fill up sooner. Some of these I found that when you get to a certain point, some of the blobs are almost like 1 gram each, which makes it a little bit more convenient, because then I just make sure that I start blobbing it out when I get closer. 76, 77, one more. Okay. Now, one of the things that I should have done, and I didn't when I was done with that, is I should have cleaned my hands off, and I didn't, so I'm going to have to make sure I use a clean finger to wipe that off of the edge. So, I usually just grab a baby wipe and clean it off right away, so then I don't have to worry about that. It's always really helpful to mix up the Floetrol and the paint first before you add the water. It seems to help the paint incorporate better into the Floetrol when you do it that way. Oops. Okay, guess I should be more careful. Have some tiles that just fell off their little cups that they were sitting on. Alright. Okay, so I put that back on there. And then I push the tear. And then we're going to add 70 grams of water to this. And the thing is, once you've been doing this longer, you get to the point that you can judge easier how much to put in when you're getting close to what you're wanting and all of that stuff. So, all right. And that one I actually got 72 grams of water in it, so it may be a little bit too thin. If it is, I can always add a couple more grams of Floetrol, well, probably 4 grams of Floetrol and 1 gram of paint. So I'll set that aside, get this paper again. Okay. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. Alright, and it's actually a little bit less than what the green was, so it's fine. Even though I did get a couple grams of water extra in it, it should be a good consistency. So there are some times that I will be mixing up a paint that I don't have as much of. So, hold on. Like, I have these little bottles, and they are 0.7 ounces, or 21 milliliters. So, there's about 20 grams of paint in this. And so, I started marking them when I would measure them to find out, you know, how much was in here. And so I changed those. But like, if you do this and it has 21 grams of paint in it instead of the 40, then you have to, oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna show you on my calculator, but I just remembered it's on my phone. So you would take this amount and you would divide it by the number that is on the paper. So you would take 21 divided by 40, and that will give you a decimal point number. So since you're doing that with the paint, then you would take that decimal point number and multiply it by the number that it shows for Floetrol. So if the Floetrol said 80, then you would multiply that decimal point number by 80, and it'll tell you how many grams of Floetrol you need, and then you would do the same thing for the water. And so that will help you be able to use whatever amounts you have of paint. So I also have some bottles that I've mixed up, like most of the bottle, but I'll have some in there, maybe 11-12 grams left, whatever. And so I take an empty bottle that is the same kind of bottle as the one that has a little bit of paint in it, and I'll put it in on here, and make sure you take the lid off because you're going to measure the other one without a lid. And so then you'll put that on here, and then you'll push the tear button, and then take that one off and put the one on it that has some paint in it, and that way you'll know how many grams of paint you actually have left in that bottle. And so then I'll put part of the Floetrol in the bottle that I'm going to mix it up in, and then pour the paint from that bottle into it, and then I'll put the rest of the Floetrol that I need into that little paint, into that little bottle, because that way I can shake it up and clean that bottle out as good as possible, get as much paint out of it as I can, and then I'll pour that into the bottle that I'm mixing it up in, and then I'll do that with the water as well. I'll put it in the small bottle and shake it up really good and try to get as much paint out of it, and then pour it into the bottle I'm mixing it up in. Sorry. So I hope that all makes sense to you, and I hope this was really helpful. If it was, I would love it if you would hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for those of you that already do subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you have a great one. I'll talk to you later. Bye. God bless.